Hello, it is November the 14th, 2020. This is John Wilcox. I am your host for this evening. Um, I actually had something I'd like to talk about that I don't think I ever really talk about much in my life, and that is growing up the importance of radio. Um, when I was a kid, we were a poor family in a crowded place. My folks and the four of us kids. Never had my own room until my teens, and I used to sleep out in a couch in the living room. And one of the things I would love to do is I would lay back on my couch. I had a little tiny transistor radio, more often than not on WABC out of New York. I would listen to Cousin Bruce Morrow and Dan Ingram, and I'm sure there are probably other people, I just don't remember their names. But I love that radio. I would just have it near one ear, and I would listen to, the songs of the day in the mid 60s into, I guess, let's call them the psychedelic 60s. So I'd listen to everything from, you know, trying to think of a good estimate of songs. The Circle, the Beatles, Herman's Hermits, a lot of Motown stuff, all sorts of stuff. And I used to love that. And as I got a little older, I don't know how, but somehow I got like a bigger transistor radio. And I used to go and sit outside, not even sit, I would sometimes lay down outside inside my folks' car in the back seat with that radio on. And that we're talking probably at that point like 70, 71, 72. And again, I'd be listening mostly to AM. I still wasn't getting used to FM until later on. And, you know, I remember distinctly listening to like Let It Be, things like that. And it was a great comfort to me and a great joy. I love, music was a part of my life from the get go. And by the time I hit the mid 70s and finally my own room, FM radio came along. And for me, it was 99 times out of 100. It was WNEW FM out of New York, listening to Dennis Elsis, Scott Muni, Pete Fornatale, Allison Steele. Later on, Vinnie Scelsa. I was a great fan of Vinnie Scelsa because he played some very unusual stuff. And it was through WNEW FM that I started listening to bands like Renaissance and Genesis and Nectar and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Although Emerson, Lake and Palmer kind of predates me listening to radio. I know my brother had gotten their album Trilogy from 1972 so he could learn the song from the beginning because he was playing it in a band. And I listened to the rest of the album and I loved ELP. I think my earliest progressive stuff was probably Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and Jethro Tull. And but massive influence on me. By the middle to later 70s, I was very hooked on the King Biscuit Flower Hour. It was on every Sunday night it was either on at 9 or 10, I forget which. And they had an offshoot called the BBC Rock Hour. And I would get tapes, and when I could tape like the good biscuits, Genesis, Gentle Giant, Renaissance, and I remember NEW doing broadcasts of bands like Horselips. Oh my God, Horselips at my father's place. That was a phenomenal concert from the early 80s. The band City Boy, great band, relatively obscure band, but boy, did they sound great live. But I was really hooked in. I used to be that guy that called in, especially at nighttime on NEW in the 70s. I would talk to Allison Steele, the great Allison Steele, the Nightbird, and I would request songs and she would play them. I remember sometimes I had to um, ask for something different because she would say at that time, and just think about this, they would only play a song one time a day. Think about that. One time a day. There was no heavy rotation. Um, so she would say, ask me for something else. And so, and I remember a great joy because at the time in late 77, Genesis were going to have their double live album, Seconds Out, come out. And they got an advance of it. And I remember asking Allison to read me off the back, the track listing, and she gladly did that. And I got nervy and I asked her to play the song Supper's Ready, which that live version clocks in at about 25 minutes. And she said, sure, I'll have it up for you in a few minutes. And I didn't think about it till afterwards that it meant that she could take a break. She didn't have to cue in another song. She could go if she had to go pee or something, whatever. But it was a wonderful, magical time, and radio was a big positive influence on me. I hit different points at the right time to hit them. Scott Muni's Things from England that he would do once a week, was it every Friday? Things like that, exposing me to all different kinds of music I wouldn't normally have heard. And huge influence on my life is radio. I wonder if it was yours too. Probably several people out there have similar stories, but probably different channels. And that's a good thing, isn't it? Anyway, there's some little radio story for you for this week. I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.